Beyond the Waves is a Hail Hail Media production. It may contain sweary words, and adult situations may be discussed. If you're in the company of underage temps, turn off the show now and listen back later. If you'd like to get in touch with the show, email us at beyondthewaves67@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at BTW Celtic Show, or you can join our group on Facebook at Beyond the Waves. Hail, hail, and keep the faith. All right, Rev, we're going to get going here in a couple minutes, but there's one thing that I want to share with you. We just signed Teemu Pukki.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
From Schalke, and I want to get your thoughts. This is the Pukki song that maybe the Green Brigade can adopt, but you're the ultra in the family, so I want to get your see if you can picture yourself singing this one.
All right, let's hear it.
Here you go. Oh, good build up.
I like it.
Pukki, 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 Pukki.
I'm dancing here.
Pukki, 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 Pukki. It's easy to remember. La 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 la. Sha la 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 la. Pukki, 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 Pukki. Pukki, 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 Pukki. It's a little repetitive.
It's easy to learn,
What do you think so far? It's a little monotonous, with like the. I mean, it's just the Pukki, Pukki over and over again.
Makes it sound like he's like a straight up savior, with that type of music.
Well, I mean, take it easy. He's no Sammy. It's not like, JC Superstar or anything. It is easy to remember, though.
Yeah.
Dodgy German accent. Nein. Schnell. Schwanz in Stücken. I could see the Green Brigade doing this. I mean,
you do love Disco Land.
Yeah, but it's gotta. I mean, come on, they gotta man this up a little bit. This is a little soft. It needs a drum, and it needs some pyro. Pukki, 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 Pukki. Pukki, 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 Pukki. Pukki, 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 Pukki. All right, we need some new words. I'm already sick of the guys. Sell them. Sell Pukki. I'm sick of them. I got Pukki Lash. Ugh, I don't know. It seemed really good at first, but
I only listened to the whole song. I don't know how I feel about it.
It's a long way to paradise from here.
All right, welcome to the welcome to the Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show. My name is Graham Wilson, and I was doing so well until about 35 seconds ago, and I had a coughing fit left over from midweek, no doubt. I was practically dying this week, but I managed to... Well, actually, it wound up being convenient because I was able to stay home from work and watch the Shakhtar Karagandhi game, and in relative peace of mind. Anyway, had a really sore throat, but every time we scored, it was just like screaming, and then it would hurt, but I didn't care. Yeah, what can you say? Just an amazing performance from the team on Wednesday. A performance that I didn't think we were capable of, considering the resources that we have available. We went over it ad nauseum. Without an out-and-out poacher, a striker that, is a finisher, we still don't have one. There's a few hours left in the transfer window, so all that may change, and there's rumors abound. For some reason, the Scottish footballing authorities saw it fit to end the transfer window earlier than every other league, putting every one of their teams at a significant disadvantage. But they basically do that with every decision that they make. It's no wonder that Scottish football is in the conundrum that it is just now. It's ran by complete and utter dumplings. But these are the rules and regulations that we have to abide by, and it makes for interesting analysis. But as we alluded to in the opening, we brought in Teemu Pukki, who we've been rumored to be after for quite some time, Rev. And he does have a bit of a snappy song that's attached to him. Now, Neil Lennon did mention that he isn't an out-and-out poacher similar to Hooper. He does have a nice first touch, and he's going to make us better. So that's obviously something that's going to be good, but he seems like similar to Anthony Stokes, a bit of a creator, a nice first touch at times, and but isn't going to be that player that's going to lead the line for you, especially in Europe, who's going to bang in 20 to 30 goals.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yay, we brought somebody in. Is it who we're looking for? Not really.
Who are we looking for?
We're looking for, someone who's consistent, can, play as a lone striker, I believe.
Who? Who? Give me a name. Yeah, give me a name. You know exactly who you want to say. Go ahead and say him.
Finn Bosenman guy.
Yeah, he's easy for you to say. I can't see how he would possibly have a song. Can you imagine Finn Bogason, having like a song like I mean, Pookie is like, it's just like, it's like, punch the air. It's just, it's staccato almost, but it sort of sounds like, there was Pookie from New Jack City.
Yeah.
He was a crackhead though. So
I don't know. Have you seen pictures of this guy? He looks a little bit wild himself.
I'm getting Christopher Atkins from the Blue Lagoon.
Yeah.
Or maybe the Green Lagoon. Or maybe the Greatest American Hero. That might be a little late for you, Rev. You might be a little young. There was
No, I know the Greatest American Hero.
Yeah. The guy with the perm and the cape and all. Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could be. Yeah. So, exciting times. I'm only actually going to be able to be on the air for about an hour. I have to get in the car and drive to Atlantic City. Because one of my wife's friends decided that it'd be a good idea to get married on Labor Day weekend. There's no traffic. Just pull the trigger. So anyway, in the meantime, the Skype lines are wide open. I just wanted to open it up, for take your calls, let it out. It's such a relief knowing that we're in the Champions League once again. The group stage is proper, and we are in a challenging group, we'll say. AC Milan referred to it as the group of nobility. Some people refer to it as the group of death. However, I would probably consider Arsenal's group to be more of the group of death. But nonetheless, it's... Really? Well, I mean, Arsenal, in that group you have Arsenal, Dortmund, Marseille, and Napoli, who I think Napoli might actually, in spite of being in pot 4, they might win that group. They brought in a lot of quality. Rafa Benitez seems to be loving life with his chubby little belly. Down in Napoli, they brought in Higuain, who, you absolutely know is going to score goals by the bucket load when they play against Arsenal. Arsenal have bought fecking nobody. And well, I mean, Marseille's always going to be decent quality. They're always capable of a result in Dortmund. I mean, they're a fantastic side as well. But this is a Celtic podcast, Rev.
It is.
So we are in the group of nobility coming up against Barcelona once again. They're crapping it, having to come back to Glasgow. I'm actually on the cusp of booking tickets to come over and go to the Kilmarnock away game the Saturday before, and then go to the Barcelona home game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think that might happen. My wife wants to come now too, which is certainly very interesting.
I'd love to go, but I have a wedding to pay for. So
yeah, don't we all?
There's that.
Yeah. Well, we will get you over.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying we will get you over sooner or later.
Yeah. I'm not. I mean, okay. We're in the Champions League group stages, and I'll take it. Obviously, and I had a feeling we were going to win the game. I wasn't too worried with that, but I didn't have too much hope we were going to win with a proper margin.
Well, 3-0.
Yeah.
I mean, without a finisher up top, okay, it was a foregone conclusion that Sammy was going to play up top again, which I think in large stretches is a liability. And then once again, it was unclear what the defensive partnership was going to be, especially considering Moyakolo and Van Dijk the previous week absolutely made a mess of things. And I think Neil Lennon got everything 100% right. I'm out of the business of second guessing Neil Lennon. I'm out of it, at least until the next time he screws something up. But it seems as though every time he is he's up against it. Everything is just stacked against his team. Every time it seems as though he's run out of ideas, he pulls a rabbit out of the hat. I don't know how he does it, but he does it every single time. We go up against Barcelona. It's like, Jesus, we're going to get gubbed. And we should have gotten 2 results out of that.
Yeah.
And you go up against this situation. I mean, last summer we were certainly lacking in certain areas from a transfer perspective, lots of injuries, and he got us into the group stages then as well. So I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he got the result on Wednesday, especially considering everybody on the park was injured. Sammy's nursing this toe thing. Stokesy's been nursing a calf strain for the past 3 weeks. Only played, come to find out after the fact, that he played under painkillers. He took painkillers in order to play. And I thought, at times he sort of drifted in and out, but he was, all things considered, quite effective. And when you look at the footwork for the creation, the single-handed creation of the third goal, I don't care how bad the Karagandhi defense is. That's phenomenal. Yeah. He had to do it. And that was really the comment throughout in the analysis after the game from all of the pundits and the bitter orcs. He just put it right into the path of James Forrest, and Jamesy had nothing to do but just poke it right into the top shelf, or the upper 90, as we Yanks like to call it.
I gotta eat my words a little bit about that game, because I was saying, when Commons was coming off, it should be Jamesy coming off. He's not playing that well.
I was screaming to get Jamesy off. I mean, he was limping, and it looked like he was gasping for air. A lot of people wanted to, have a go at me afterward. Oh, you're a mug. Well, I'm sorry. It doesn't change the fact that he was absolutely, just shattered.
Right. The 89 minutes before that doesn't change. Right. Yes, he scored the winner. He scored when we needed him to, but that doesn't change how he played before. But, all credit to him in that.
Yeah, definitely. He was in the right place at the right time. He did exactly what he needed to do, and, fair play. I'm obviously in hindsight, I'm glad we didn't pull him off, but, the logic and the rationale was there to get him off. I mean, everybody was dead on their feet by the end of that game.
Yeah. I was when it got to 2-2, I was pretty confident that, it was going to go into, added time, and I figured we'd probably squeak it out then, but do it in the 90, that's even better.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, with the drama and the atmosphere at Celtic Park was unbelievable. I mean, it was as good as I've ever seen it, maybe.
It didn't start too well. I mean, maybe that's just my opinion or hearing it on TV, but just...
I saw your tweet. I don't know why you said that.
It just with everyone whistling and it just seemed...
You don't like the whistling?
It was too early for that. It just seemed too tense, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, you can cut the tension with a friggin' knife.
Yeah.
The players were, and the way that started, it should have been, it could have been like 4-0 in the first 15 minutes. But it just seemed too tense, and I just, if I was there, I would have been like, just shut up and calm the hell down.
Yeah.
But once the first goal, Commons goal went in, then that was it. Then it completely changed, and the atmosphere was fine the rest of the game. But just the first half, it just, I don't know, it just rubbed me the wrong way.
Well, it rubbed me the right way. I'll tell you that, especially with Chris Commons. I mean, we need to sign him to an extension, and we need to have him finish his career as a Celtic player. I think that he understands what it means to wear that shirt and what it means to put that badge over your head and to play for the club. And I think that he's fully enrolled in what it means to the supporters, and it means a lot to him. You can definitely see he's the one that I think is going to be stepping up this season and taking a leadership role. Yeah. I wouldn't have any problem whatsoever with him taking the captain's armband when Scott Brown is out. I think we've done the carousel of players wearing the armband when Scott Brown goes down, and I wouldn't have any problem Chris Commons taking up that mantle. I can see him just playing into that role, that leadership role, and it's always good to have more than one of those type of players. If there's one knock against Joe Ledley, I think that he doesn't do quite enough of that, or at least we don't see a lot of it. He's a tidy player. He's very efficient, and he means a lot to the side when he's in the side. I think he's taken a lot of stick over the past month, a lot of it undeserved in my opinion. But I don't think that he does enough of that sort of leadership stuff, getting in people's face and demanding more from the people around him. Maybe that's a product of him just playing next to Scott Brown.
Yeah, it seems like he's a bit more of a quiet, almost stoic type when it comes to that.
Yeah.
A little more shy. Yeah, good point.
I like, obviously, for the keeper to be vocal.
Right.
Fraser Forster's taken a lot of stick over the past month, and with some of it with good reason. Other times, I think it's a bit harsh, but it's the type of thing that he can settle back into the form that he exemplified in the group stages last season, and I think that it's only going to do him a world of good in terms of focus and in terms of getting himself right as we get into this Champions League. And another good point that I saw repeatedly this week was, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Christ, here we go. We're right up against it. We're playing against three exceptionally good teams." And to a certain extent, my first reaction was when they pulled Celtic, and then it was like we're going to find out what group. It's like, please not H, and it was like H. It's like, damn it. But and so I had a similar feeling initially. But getting back to my earlier point, when Neil Lennon is up against the greatest of challenges, that's when we see the best out of him and the best out of this team. I mean, look at what happened this August. Shakhtar Karagandhi. We almost shat the bed coming up against the Kazakh side that slaughters sheep for luck. I mean, seriously. We have a tendency when we go up against inferior competition to maybe play down to that competition sometimes. We saw that exemplified last season quite a bit. But when we are absolutely up against it and we need a result and we need to play at our top peak level, Neil Lennon has them ready. So for me, I'm almost encouraged that we're going up against three tough side. That means we're going to be ready for it. We're going to be up for it. We're going to be playing our absolute best. This team, say what you want about them, but they do not shrink in the presence of a superior side on paper. They're not going to be pushed around, especially at Celtic Park. So it's going to be very, very exciting. I can't wait.
No, yeah, I agree. I seem to forget that every so often too. That they usually play to their opponent's level, playing up or playing down, and so yeah, I obviously wanted the easiest path for us, but then after I really thought about it and stuff, and it's like, we did it when we had to do it, and we played worse opponents and scraped by. So, I'm just looking at it from the point of we've played these teams, how many times before, and I was hoping to get something new.
Like, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's
Group C, I think, is the group that I wanted.
Yeah. That was my first choice as well, and you're right. I mean, these are clubs that we've gone up against: Barcelona, AC Milan, obviously, several times over the past several years, in the knockout stages. Everybody remembers that year. I think that was Neil Lennon's last year with Celtic, and I think that I mean, we can break this down. We can analyze, the opponents that we're going to come up against quite in depth over the next several weeks. We have an international break that we're coming up to just now, and I think it's perfectly timed. Get some of these players some rest. Obviously, they've been traveling a lot. They've been playing a lot. They're carrying some injuries. Get themselves right. Hopefully, they're not going to be playing at all or very much for their international side, so they can do what's necessary and get themselves back to where they need to be, so that we can pick things up with the SPL when we return, and then get ready for the game against Ajax, because that's going to be fast and furious on the heels of the players' returns. But it is the type of thing where if we can play to our fullest potential, I can't see any reason why we would finish second. This is an AC Milan team that, let's be honest, they're no mugs, but this is not the same side of even a couple of years ago, which I don't think was the greatest side. I mean, at that point they had Ibrahimovic. They've been going over, let's be honest, a rebuilding phase over the past several years. There was a time when they were littered with, all these sort of aging older players. That the whole Milan Lab experiment was really at its full capacity, and they needed to bring in some youth. They brought in Pato. Pato, his time has really come and gone. And some of the Brazilian players that they brought in maybe haven't come to full fruition. Now they have Balotelli. Since Balotelli's come back, he's been exceptional. He's an exceptional player. But prior to him coming in the January window of last season, they had El Shaarawy, who it's easy for me to say, who scared the life out of me, in the early part of last season. He's an exceptional player, but since Balotelli's come into the side, he's really lost some of his efficacy. Now, they've also lost Kevin Prince Boateng, but, that sort of point has been tempered by the fact they brought in Alexander Matri, who we know full well from the Juventus tie, who absolutely made mincemeat out of F. Ambrose. And maybe F. Ambrose is looking at this as maybe an exercising of the demons, an opportunity to put the events of last February right. Fingers crossed. Hopefully that's the way they're going to take this. But this isn't a Milan side that terrifies me, especially in light of the fact that we've beaten superior sides in the past. Now, we've had players that we don't currently have. I'm excited by some of the players that we've brought in this past week, and I think that they can have somewhat of an immediate impact, if not, an impact that's going to completely replace. I mean, we have Pukki now. Oof, yeah, that's going to get old. Now, Neil Lennon himself has said that Pukki is not an out-and-out poacher. He's not going to be like Hooper. He creates. So what do we do? I mean, we need a poacher. We need somebody that's going to score goals if we're going to have any sort of effectiveness in those group stages. Now, Finn Bogason is still out there. We still have several hours left in the transfer window. God, I'd love to be able to. Why do we have to go to this wedding? I would love to be able to do like a transfer deadline day show where we could just sort of monitor things and go at it live. But what are you going to do? Domestic tranquility. You know it better than most, Rev. The Skype lines are open, so get in touch. We want to hear what you think about, first off, the 3-0 result against Karagandhi in midweek, getting back into the group stages. Did Peter Lowell's gamble pay off? Is it somehow justified now, not bringing in an out-and-out striker before we went into this last round of qualifiers? Was it never in doubt? For me, it was a gamble that, Peter Lowell, without a doubt, is the luckiest person on the face of the earth. No question about it. It's not the type of risk that I'd put $20 million on the table for. And Neil Lennon, if anybody, Peter Lowell needs to be at the on his knees in front of in front of Neil Lennon, basically thanking him and in worship and awe, because once again he pulls a rabbit out of a hat and bails Peter Lowell out. Let's be honest, if we didn't get through, it wasn't just going to be me who was going to be quite critical of Peter Lowell and this board's policies. It was going to be a hell of a lot more people. I'm glad it didn't come to that. I'm so utterly thankful that once again I was made to look like a mug. But it was a risk. The first leg of that clearly states that. And it's not like, there was no sort of, they knew they had it in the bag, that they were going to come back to Celtic Park and win 3-0. I mean, Neil Lennon himself, referred to it as, doing the impossible, the result on Wednesday night. So it wasn't as if he came into this like, right, we'll be fine. We're going to do this. I'm sure he believed that they could, but he didn't take it as a given. And he probably thought that, their work was certainly cut out for them. And it was. And it didn't need to be. That's my point. So I want to hear from you. Did Peter Lowell, is his gamble somehow, abdicated? Is it justified now that we got through? Also want to hear from listeners. I mean, the transfer window. For me, I mean, obviously the Scottish transfer window is closing a bit earlier than other leagues, but should it be shortened? I mean, make it like maybe August 1st instead of September 1st. I mean, why is it that the transfer window is extended until, every league in Europe is already playing? All these players have already gotten bedded in with their sides, and now all of a sudden they're having to leave. You have this Gareth Bale fiasco. Where is he? Is he in Madrid? Is he in North London? Is he who cares? Who knows? Who cares? But should it be shortened? Until perhaps before the league starts. Make these clubs do their business early on and get it over with.
I see what you're saying, and it is for other clubs kind of that same way. If you're looking at it from a European standpoint, because figure, the Pot A and the Pot B teams, for example, they go right into the group stages, and for them, they get to do all these transfers. Yeah, okay, the league starts for them, and they can still do transfers, but the European season doesn't start for them. So, that's why you have like all these, the top clubs from all the leagues, they get to still kind of wheel and deal up until the last minute, and doesn't really have too much effect on them, at least on the bigger prize in their eyes. You know what I mean?
Now, several rumors floating about over the past week in terms of people exiting. There was a huge uproar about Izagiri.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Is he leaving? I think a lot of people who maybe have too much time on their hands saw him throw his jersey into the crowd after the game and saw, oh wait, that means he's leaving. And there's a lot of people who've given him stick, over the past year or so. Since really, I mean, let's be honest, it's been enough time. There's been enough time since his injury where he should be back to full focus and full match sharpness, and he hasn't been. I'll be honest, he hasn't been horrible, but he hasn't been to the same standard as his first season where he was the SPL Player of the Year. I think it's a really high bar, and we've gone over this time and again, but he gets a lot of stick as if we need to get shot at him, and let's get rid of him. He's not good enough. Well, I'm sorry. Do you want to bring back Lee Naylor, Danny Fox, Telfer? I mean, think about some of the juggernauts that we have had at left back prior to Izagiri coming. And then, ask yourself the same question. I don't think he's horrible. I think he has his moments. I think he has some moments where he's exceptional, but he's never going to be. I think, it's getting to the point where we can say he's never going to be the player that he originally was. And that's okay. We bought him for £630,000. I think he's quite serviceable, considering. He makes mistakes. Every player in the park does from time to time. But I don't think he's horrible. Now, there are rumors that... So, first off, Neil Lennon came out after the game and said, Izagiri's going nowhere. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's not me saying it. That's not, a source that I have or whatever saying it. It's Neil Lennon, and he said it publicly. So, everybody, let's just relax. Deep breath. Izagiri's staying. But we are rumored to be in for Alex Butner, who is an under-21 Dutch international. It's all these Dutch players, Rev. We got Van Dijk, we got Dirk Diggler, now we got Butner. So it's a lot of Dutch players. And this boy seems class from all reports. I haven't watched many Man United reserve games, but it sounds like he can do a job. So that'd be interesting. It'd be good to get some sort of competition in to challenge Izagiri, to maybe try and get the best out of him once again. Yeah, so I think that can be nothing but good. Absolutely. Another rumor at the last sort of minute is, there's a rumor that Lee Tomlin is, we've put in a bid of $1.4 million for Lee Tomlin. Excuse me, I'm getting sick again. Listen, it's a player from Peterborough, a League One side. He scored 21 goals total over the course of the past 3 seasons. Looks like he carries a bit of weight. Some of his YouTube clips, I'm less than enamored with or blown away by. A lot of his YouTube clips include, nice build up and then wasting opportunities. I'm sorry, we already have that player. We have 12 strikers right now, and not one of them really is a finisher. So we're going to pay $1.5 million once again for a player who is not really a finisher. And just a quick cruise of some of the Peterborough message boards, and you find he's not even a striker. He's a midfielder. That's sort of pushed into playing a forward role. So we're bringing another Chris Commons instead of like an out-and-out poacher for $1.5 million. Save the money. Save it.
Right. If over, a couple $100,000 when we're talking transfer fee for a player that's up, in the $4 or $5 million range, and we're just going to dump, $1 million, $1.5 million on.
Save it.
Yeah. Come on.
I mean, there's smart money. And sometimes smart money is spending a lot for someone that is an exceptional player. Value doesn't mean just not having to spend a lot. You can shell out not a whole lot and get a shitty player all day long. We've done that. Sorry, but we have. We've done that. Mm-hmm. When we've done the opposite, I mean, we've spent not a whole lot and brought in Victor Wanyama. But sometimes it just makes more sense, considering the predicament you're in and the predicament that you're going into. Sometimes value is spending a little more than or sometimes a lot more than you're accustomed to bring in a player that's of such exceptional quality that it's worth it. Value isn't paying $1.5 million for another guy that's going to warm the bench. That's stupid.
My own personal thoughts and stuff as far as scouting is I would tend to avoid England as a place to look for players.
Or
only because
racism from Rev.
No. Hear me out. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's England.
Racist.
But they could be actual English players or players from other countries playing in England, only for the fact of you would think that the top English teams would have their scouts well ingrained into the lower levels, within their own country. So if there's a guy who's 24, 25, 23, and he's in, League One or the championship, and he's still there's probably a reason for that, and I'll say Gary Hooper is the exception to that rule.
Well, we got him before anybody else, had taken notice. When everybody was so enamored with Andy Carroll and the 11 goals that he scored or 9 goals that he scored in the championship, paying whatever it was $35 million for him.
Right.
That's when we swooped in. That was exceptional business. No question about it.
That's definitely the exception to the rule. But by and large, I would say, Man U, Chelsea, Man City, blah blah blah, all these teams, they have a pretty firm grip on what's going on within their own FA, and I would avoid England for that, that reason.
Well, to that point, here are some of the sides that have been linked with Lee Tomlin. West Ham. So there you go, Rev. Crystal Palace, Celtic, QPR. QPR, little Ari Redknapp. Way too Gov. Middlesbrough, so another championship juggernaut. Reading, Brighton, and Blackburn. So a bunch of championship also-rans are in for him. I'm not exactly dazzled, to be honest.
Right.
See, with the exception of West Ham and Crystal Palace, who are relegation fodder, in my opinion. Is that really the market that we're in when we're flush with cash? Listen, who knows what the situation is with Van Bogason? There's been rumors that he's got a broken toe, that Herringbone or whatever the hell the name of that club is. They want $10 million for him. They want $6 million for him. Who knows? I think it's worth going back with upping whatever it was that we offered them. If it was $4 million, saying, hey, look, we'll give you $5 million, take it or leave it. And if they leave it, then at least we can come out and say we tried. I think it's worth one more go. Because they're up against it just as much as we are. They're desperate for cash, and that's really the only outlet that they have to bring in any cash. They're like the Rangers of Holland. Now, they're on the balls of their ass. They need as much money as they possibly can. And are you going to hold out for a couple million more, when you're trying to keep the lights on? I don't think so. Maybe that's the game that Peter Law was playing with this. I hope so. Because, at this point, if we're going to bring in Lee Tomlin as our sort of talisman, striker, poacher, who's going to bang in 20 or 30 goals. This is going to be a long season of watching games like today where there's going to be hopeful balls floated into the box, and Mito Balde may progress a bit in terms of holding the ball up and distributing. But it's not going to be like last year or the year before. I promise you. We are now joined by Dr. John from the Grand Strand. Or maybe he's not on the Grand Strand. This guy travels more than my wife, which is, listen, there are astronauts that don't travel as much as my wife does. Dr. John, he's the chairman, the founder, the CEO, the curator of, in my opinion, the best named CSC on the face of the planet, the Myrtle Beach Ball Deep Celtic Supporters Club. John, how are you?
What's going on, G? How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Was that an appropriate welcome for you?
That was great, considering I'm actually home.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. You got the feet up. You got, you might run down to Shuckers a little later, have a couple of red dogs.
Yeah, I might. It's actually a beach day for once. It's not raining here. So
fantastic. Fantastic. Lake Myrtle, I'm sure, is just packed with all of the lovely folks at the Redneck Riviera and yourself. I need to get back down there.
As they call it, Kmart by the Sea here.
Yes. I need to get back down there. It's been 13 years since I've been back to Myrtle Beach. I hear a lot has changed. For those who don't know, I actually went to school. I went to university where John lives, just outside of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So I need to get back. I think I miss it. I think it misses me. I think this is, I think it's time.
You got a place to stay, so let me know.
Fantastic. All right.
Let me know.
Listen, I can't turn this down.
I want to talk to you about today.
Yeah.
You have convinced me about Mulgrew, and really his lack of speed really showed up today. I thought today, and I tweeted this earlier, that from the very beginning, it looked like Lenny put a charge up their ass.
Yeah.
And they were going forward a lot quicker than they had over the last couple of weeks. There was none of this left to right, back and forth stuff going on today. I don't know if you noticed that. I was just seriously looking at how fast they tried to play forward the entire time. And I think the speed on the wings, especially with Matthews playing and then Izzy on the left, love them or hate them, the speed that they give, it just creates so much width that when Mulgrew's in the pitch, they just don't have.
No question about it.
And
go ahead.
And they just, the goals didn't come, and I think you're right about the poacher thing, and and the money issue, is one thing, but just the width that they have with what's going on the right and Berger on the left, as far as him getting some speed out there. And I'll tell you what, that team is dangerous, and just get me Hooper-esque type player in there,
and we're golden.
They just got the speed and the width to get there now, with Mulgrew sitting on the bench, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question about it. A couple of things. First off, the thing about Mulgrew, and he's played a lot. You know, he was carted off in one of the qualifiers. I believe, I can't remember. You know, if it was Elfsborg. I think it was the second leg of Elfsborg. He was carted off, and I mean that's a lot of football for him to be playing early doors. It's going to be good to get him a couple of weeks of rest. But with that being said, I mean I've said this for months. He is not a midfielder. We try and shoehorn him in there because he's a bigger body. He's pretty decent in the tackle, and from dead ball situations, he might be the best on the team. No question about it. But the liability when you put him in the middle of the park is he doesn't have that instinct. He doesn't read the game well enough for me. He doesn't have the ability to be able to let the ball do the work for him. He doesn't open his body up. He traps the ball back to goal, allows so much time for opposing defenders to close him down, and then he panics and oftentimes it's either a slack pass or he gives the ball up. He doesn't have his head up the park nearly enough for me. And you're right, it does lead to a lot of that side to side backwards passing. And I think, at certain times, he's a little out of his depth. He's pointing back to the center half, when Matthews has it going up the park. That's when we need a link up. That's when we need something to facilitate there. A couple of other things that, like you very rightly said, that was my impression as well. Looked like the side had a charge up his ass today. I think it was Dirk Bow Richter. I think that, he's an exceptionally versatile player. This fits into this mold that Neil Lennon, I think, tends to favor with the Michael Lushtigs, where he can play, a bit on the right wing, but he's a right back. He can slide in at center half as well. And as we saw from midweek, he's an exceptional center half, when we really needed somebody to step up. And fingers crossed that he's not going to be out of the lineup for too long. But, Mulgrew is another example of that. Yes, Lenny tries to shoehorn him into the midfield. And yes, he can essentially sort of do a job there. But, he can play left back. He's another great center half. Sammy, you can play him up at striker. I think he's absolutely god-awful up there. But, it's his best positions on the left-hand side. These players that are versatile, that can slide around in different places on the park, and that allows a lot of freedom, to if a player wants to, if you want to send a particular player and he vacates a space, Charlie Mulgrew can slide in there and cover it and do a nice job in doing it. Then that I think, adds an additional element, onto our side and makes a nightmare for opposing sides to come up against. So, in addition to that, I think that, we're seeing a lot of the skill that I think Ajax in the early going saw from Bow Richter and the potential that we saw. Now, obviously, he gets a lot of stick in terms of being culpable to the injury. And listen, I'm as guilty as anybody. Anytime he hit the ground today, I was like, oh, I mean, he has this reputation that he's made of glass. But when you look at his previous history, he's playing in upwards of 35 to 40 games every year except for one, and that was when he had a broken back. I think we can excuse him for a broken back. 2011, 2012, he didn't play, I think, above 30 games in a season, but then last season he played 36 games. So greater than 30 games a year, bar one, over several years for a 27-year-old. To me, that doesn't seem so much like, this guy's made of chocolate and he's an injury liability. Fingers crossed he can continue that. And if he can withstand the sort of physicality that he's going to come up against, and especially the lack of protection from referees playing in a Celtic strip every week in Scotland, I think we have an exceptional player. He's an outlet down the left-hand side. Technically, he's very good. He can send the ball into the box, and it's another outlet for us going forward. I thought Anthony Stokes once again had a very good game. Let's call it what it was. It wasn't exceptional, but it certainly wasn't awful. And for all the slagging that Stokes gets, I think it's incredibly out of order. The free kick that he took,
he gets a flash of brilliance.
Yeah,
it's almost like he knows when and where to pick his spot.
No, you're right. It's similar like a.
And when he gets his chance, obviously he hit the bar on Wednesday, but. When he gets his chance, but I still don't see him as the finisher.
I don't either.
I don't see him as the finisher.
I think you as an American, you could probably pick up on this as in the same way that I could, or maybe the Rev could, although the Rev doesn't look at the national team because he's, Antifa and all that. But, it's similar to me. I have a similar impression of Stokesy, maybe not to the same level of quality, but the certain... just the way they play and how they fit in. Clint Dempsey's a very similar way, where it seems as though he just drifts in and out of games, where it's like he's just missing, and then all of a sudden he just shows up, and he has that instinct to be right at the right place at the right time. He notices patterns that develop with center halves, and he notices, a particular way that he can get on the wrong side of the center half and free himself and have a one-on-one, with the keeper and make it happen. I think Stokesy, to a certain extent, is a similar type of player. It's frustrating because, you see opportunities for him, and let's be honest, he's born offside sometimes. That's exceptionally frustrating. But when he does find that bit of magic, you're gonna have opportunities to score, and for me, that's invaluable. I can't understand a lot of the folks that want to say let's get rid of him and he's not fit to wear the shirt and all that. Like you, I don't think he's that poacher that we need. I think Pookie, I haven't seen too much of Pookie, but based on Neil Lennon's description and from the footage that I have seen, it seems as though Pookie is a similar type player to Anthony Stokes. So lots of questions. Tony Watt going out on loan to a Belgian side that I can't pronounce, which is certainly stands to reason. So there's a lot of questions, and there's only a few hours left in this transfer window. Now, I know you have a particular perspective on the transfer window and Peter Lowell and the club and how they want to do business in this transfer window. Obviously, I make no secret about how I feel about it. What's your take on Peter Lowell, how he goes about it? I mean, was this a risk? Was this a risk that was worth taking? And let's not kid ourselves. This was a risk. Does the result on Wednesday vindicate his gamble? And do you think he's going about it the right way?
Okay. The answer to your question is, was it a gamble? Yes. Did he get lucky as hell? The answer is yes. On the flip side, you got to understand, this is one thing that I've been looking for and basically saying to myself when I've tried to read different things. A lot of people want to say, well, let's go ahead. We got $5 million for Hooper. Why don't we just spend the $5 million? The issue is not spending the $5 million on Hooper. The issue is you spent $2 million on him and you got paid $2 million wages or £2 million wages as a signee. You got $12 million for Wanyama, but he was only bought for $900, so he was on the wage package that a 900,000 pound player would get.
$7,000 a week.
If you go out, you know what I mean? But if you go out and you buy a £5 million player, okay, fine. Now you got to pay him wages to the £5 million player. They're not the same. Now, I granted,
Finn Bogason is on $10,000 a week.
What'd you say?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Finn Bogason is on $10,000 a week.
Yeah, but you're gonna pay $5 million for him or $6 million for him. He's gonna want $6 million. I mean, then you got to reach personal terms.
Not necessarily. I mean, we could pay him. Player. We could pay him what we were paying Hooper, which was $18,000 a week. That's nearly doubling his wages.
I agree. Listen, I agree with you, but that's just that's my understanding of the way business works.
No, you're right.
Owning my own business and working myself. So, do I see where Lowell's coming from? The answer is totally. As a fan, do I want to get all these players in and just knock it down? The answer is yes. But then again, I went and I looked up just for my own personal edification. I went and looked up what has been purchased by Benfica and Porto, and they do the majority of their buys at U19, U18. I looked at Benfica; they bought 34 Portuguese players this year at U18.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know if we're doing that. I didn't see us buying 34 U18 players to go ahead and build that up, because I think the way you create this and support this package, and I think here's the problem. I don't think we've been in this buy low, sell high product long enough to be able to produce 5 Wanyamas coming down the pike.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. We're kind of stuck in the middle. And I don't think we've had enough time in the game yet to be able to say, this is what we want to do. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of the disconnect comes from. Because if you got 7 or 8 players that are worthy of the first team, because you bought 37, Scottish players, or if you're Porto, 37, South American players at U18, we're just stuck. We're not there. We haven't. We're like, it's like going to Napa and you just built a vineyard, realizing that 3 years later, like for the first 3 years, you're not going to have grapes.
Right.
And then you have to buy grapes from somewhere else to be able to make your wine, and then eventually blend in yours. That's where we're at right now.
And you still have to have a kick-ass wine in that 3 year period.
You still can. I agree with you.
No, I mean, but that's the expectation. You put a name on something, and I think it's a brilliant analogy that you bring up. You have to, in that 3 year period, you're waiting for your grapes to come to fruition. You have to buy grapes from some other place, but in the meantime, people are expecting you to put out a kick-ass wine.
I agree with you. And the other problem is they're not buying 18 or 20 or 15 or anybody. If you look on transfermarket.com, they're not buying any 18 or 20 U18 players.
You're right, and this was supposed to be this is excellent call, Doc. Excellent. I mean, the analogy that you bring up and the point that you bring up is a good one too. It's good perspective for a cynic and a moaner like me. Where it's the type of thing where it's a business, and this was the remit of Lennoxtown. This is why Lennoxtown was built, obviously to bring youth players through and to get them playing together in a particular system, and then also to supplement that with some of these U18 players. Tony Watt being a perfect example of that. Tony Watt wasn't a product of Lennoxtown. We bought him when he was 17 from Air United. So to your point,
and imagine if we bought 35 of them.
Right. I mean, there'd be a lot of.
What are you going to pay for these guys? What did they pay for what? $50,000? Imagine if you bought 30 of them,
yeah,
and then 5 of them pan out,
right?
And we're just not. We're just we're kind of. We're. It's almost like when you're a woman, you're either pregnant or you're not.
Yeah.
We're almost, we're both. We don't want to be pregnant, but we want to be, and we don't want to be a man, but we want to have sex. And it's we haven't fully evolved into the full blown Moneyball version of what Benfica and Porto are.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Downside.
Let me ask you a question. I think this is an exceptional point that you bring up, and you as a business person, and me as well. For me, I follow. I mean, this might not be your politics, but I follow the FDR sort of mantra of the best decision to make is a good decision. The second best decision to make is a bad decision. The worst decision to make is no decision. I mean, I think that we're in that sort of like we're in that Mr. Miyagi. Left side of the road, okay. Right side of the road, okay. Middle of the road, squish. Crushed like bug. I mean, we need to figure out what are we going to do, so that we can continue to maintain. I mean, the Holy Grail is Champions League status, and we need to do whatever we have to maintain that status, that payday, that $20 million. So for me, when I'm looking at the transfer window, I say, and here, let's get a couple of things straight, because you're sort of getting me to fly right in here, okay? And I'm going to make some concessions. First off, this $20 million that we're bringing in, it's not all up front. I understand that, okay? $22 million that we brought in from our sales. We also owe VAT on that. So we're going to have to pay that. We're not Rangers. We don't get around, not paying taxes. We're going to have to pay VAT on that. I'm not a tax expert, but I'll just put it at 40%. I think that's probably in the ballpark. So 40% of 20 is, holy shit, Rev, help. It's $8 million. Okay, so $8 million right off the bat. We lose that. We're about, maybe 13 million if we deduct it from the 22 and make all the math work out. I know there's going to be some smartass on Twitter later who's going to, tell me I'm wrong. And you can bring it. So $13 million that we have to work for, and maybe some of this is going to come in installments, or maybe some of this is built in with selling fees. So we'll dock that down a little bit to $10 million. So what have we spent so far? Something like $5.6 million on total on Balde, Bo Richter, Van Dijk. Now Pookie's brought in at $3 million. So we're probably at 7 or 8. We probably have a couple more million to spend that would have us break even for the players that we sold on versus the players that we brought in. Now, we know at this point that we're going to have another 20 million at least in just in the Champions League. And that's aside from television, that's aside from match day, that's aside from, all that stuff. So it's going to be upwards of 20 to 25 on top of, what we're going to get anyway. And this is not funds that we need to keep the lights on, okay? The revenues that we would bring in from the SPL, generally would be enough to keep the lights on. This is froth, and obviously we're gonna have the VAT and everything else, to pay with that. But we're still in a cash-rich situation, and if we can, instead of only being limited to the $2 million left, that would have us net neutral this summer. If we could spend maybe $3 million more, and pay $5 million for Finn Bogason, and who knows if that would even bring him in. But let's just say hypothetically, if we spent that extra little bit. And we ensured a good performance in the Champions League, and we sold a shitload of kits, and we signed this guy for another 3 years, and ensured that we got in the Champions League next season. And then we have the potential to sell him on for $10 million like Wanyama. Instead of, once again, this gets back to the blog that I wrote 3 weeks ago talking about good bananas and bad bananas. You can go to Bargain Grocer and buy some bananas for dirt cheap, 49 cents a pound, and the last 2 days before they turn black. Or you can go to Whole Foods, or you can go to Trader Joe's or whatever and pay, 99 cents a pound for bananas, and they last you the entire week, and they taste great. I want good tasting bananas that are going to last a week.
Isn't that what Bo Richter is? Dude, he's gotten the sell-on value. He's already 27, 28 years old.
No, but listen. Bo Richter.
I think he's like a Band-Aid.
No, but listen, Bo Richter's a good. I think it's a good buy. I think it addresses something that we need at this point. I take your point. We're not going to have much of a sell-on with them, but I think it's a good buy. I think we're seeing early days. The good. Sort of value that he's going to bring into. Case in point today. We saw him for 40 minutes. Against Aberdeen, the first game of the season. He went out for 3 weeks with a hangnail or stub toe, or whatever the hell it was. And he comes in on Wednesday, completely changes the side. And today I thought he was excellent. So I think that's addressing something today, but he's not an out-and-out striker. He may prove to have to play that. And I think he might be able to do a job there. But I much prefer
No, that's not my point. My point is that, once again, the Bitton signing, yes. good. The Pookie signing, yes, good. All upsides. But we're still stuck in this where are we, what are we thing with the Boroka signing.
No, you're right. You're right.
That's just my point. I mean, it's really tough. I'm trying to figure out where he fits in down the road. Let's be honest. If he does the job, he's another Commons we'll have for 5, 6, 7 years, and that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. And I'm sure some teams need some of that age, but that's not. I mean, and maybe that's how the game. Maybe that's how it works. Maybe that's how Benfica does it when they come in and say, "Listen, we want Forster for $5 million." Okay, fine. Maybe that's the buy that they need because they need to plug a hole.
Right.
But the problem I see is that I don't think the board extends the vision out so people can all join in or say, I don't like either one. There's just so much of a vacuum of information.
No,
that's what we want to do.
That's the good point there. Yeah, exactly. That's the point here. It's this sort of veil of secrecy, about what the vision is. And to a certain extent, I think that they vaguely allude to it, that we're going to try and bring young players through, i.e. James Forrest. To a certain extent, McGeoch, although, that's seemed to hit a wall over the past couple of years with Neil Lennon's lack of interest in playing some of these younger kids. But, Darnell Fisher looks like, he's one to look at for the future. I mean, especially if Michael Lustig's going to miss any time. He didn't look out of place at all in the preseason, early doors, and especially in the Liverpool friendly. So, that might be an opportunity for him. But, if we're going to go to a pure sort of organic growth side, as you alluded to, the Benfica, the Porto model, just bringing in our own players and selling them for 40 or 50 million pounds. We have some work left to do, and we're going to need to sort of season that with some players that maybe we didn't develop, maybe are diamonds in the rough, maybe 18, 19. I mean, look at Adam Matthews. We got him at 19 years old. And for me, I mean, if he can stay fit this season, this is going to be, by this time next season, we're going to be talking about trying to keep Adam Matthews. No question about it. I mean, he is that type of player. He single-handedly pulled a rabbit out of the hat last weekend. His value on Wednesday was unsurpassed, and even today. He's leaping over the advertising boards, and I think that.
Let me ask you this real quick. Let me ask you to look forward. Okay. I have a friend of mine here in Myrtle Beach. His son plays in the same club as my son does down here at Coast FA, and he is a huge Maccabi Haifa fan. Just huge. I mean, he's like the way I am with Celtic. He's with Haifa. He tells me Nir is the real deal, and let's assume he is a Wanyama type or Wanyama-esque type player.
I think he is.
Okay, you bring him in. Who comes out? He comes into the side. You bring in Sammy. You bring in Champions League night. You bring in Sammy. You bring in Nir. You bring in Barker on the left. I mean,
no.
I don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. I'm saying I like this mess, but I mean, I'm trying to look forward to what it is. I don't see Mulgrew, and I don't see Ledley unfortunately, Ledley getting near the side.
Here's the deal.
If they're that good.
Here's the deal, and it's a great question, and it's one that needs to be investigated, future leaning. Let's look at the Ledley situation. You brought up Ledley, and I think that's where it's most applicable. I think that in terms of the business move, I think this has the potential to be every bit as lucrative as the Wanyama deal. We brought him in for what, $450,000 that can escalate up to just over $1 million, which is incredible business for a player that's been linked with Manchester City, has trained with Manchester City, their youths, reserve sides, and up until last season, Mancini was all over him. So
goals in a reserve game.
I think that we've pulled off quite the coup with this. I agree. Based on what I've seen and what I've heard, I think that he is the real deal. He's not the same player as Wanyama. I think that he brings something totally different to the side than Wanyama did. First off, he's 6'4". He's huge. He cuts an enormous figure. He's 21 years old, so his youth is on his side. But his vision is exceptional. It's probably better than anybody I've seen even close to the side since Key. But I think that he has a lot more sort of steel in the middle than Key did. When Key obviously first came, horrible in the tackle. My knock on Key the whole time was that he was too lightweight. You're not going to get that with this kid. He's always got his head up. I mean, his ability to ping a 40-yard pass to just to the player's feet going down the right-hand side is exceptional. He's good in traffic. I think that he can find the wide player like Adam Matthews, like Bo Richter, like James Forrest, that can, accelerate the side much the same way that we saw today. I think this purchase was looking ahead to the likelihood that we're going to lose Joe Ledley at some point. I think that my prediction was if we didn't get into the Champions League group stages, Joe Ledley would have been gone by right now. So, it would make perfect sense. We brought in, I always say is it Bur Niton or Nur Biton? It's Biton. I always mix it up. Yeah, I always do the, yeah. I always think of that Jeopardy episode with Burt Ferguson, or Burt Reynolds, but he said Turd Ferguson or whatever. Yeah. So I think that Biton coming in is essentially going to be Ledley's replacement at some point. It's a foregone conclusion. Ledley's on $30,000 a week or thereabouts, and we're not going to raise his wages. He's going to have offers of higher wages, obviously coming from the Premiership. I'm a bit surprised that we haven't sold him, to be honest, at this point. But I think that he's integral to the side, especially in the Champions League. His composure, his experience, throwing Biton out in the Champions League group stages against Barcelona, AC Milan. It's throwing I don't want to say sheep, but fine, I have to. Sheep to the wolves, and it's a bit unfair. Will we be letting Joe Ledley go for nothing in perhaps January next season? Maybe. We might be forsaking $3-4 million for him, but I see Biton down the road, fulfilling that role. That player that's going to drop a bit further back. He fancies himself a defensive midfielder, but I think he's more of that deep-lying playmaker. He can drop back, take the ball off of the center halves, and build from the back, and that's essential for the type of football that Neil Lennon's going to be playing. But in terms of skills, I think he has all the raw materials. He seems to be composed. That's really what my analysis is going to be with him coming in. How composed is he on the ball? How well does he fit in, with the system, and how well does he take to it? It's going to be interesting to see, but he has, I think it's a fantastic bit of business. A perfect example of, getting value for money it doesn't always have to be paying a lot of money, for a proven player, but it also doesn't mean, going the cheap route because, you don't want to pay a whole lot. This is more of the former. We can get the unpolished gem, polish it up, make it look pretty, and then sell it on for 10 to 12 million.
I'm with you there. I'd like the sound of that. So, hey, listen, I'll let other people get on. Thanks for chatting today.
Thanks, pal. I'll see you soon, all right?
All right, boys. How
Later. Dr.
John from Myrtle Beach, and he will straighten you out. Rev knows what I did. Yeah, he'll adjust your thinking. Nobody knows that joke except for me. Yeah. So anyway, good call there from John. And listen, I need some perspective injected into the conversation from time to time.
Indeed.
Yeah. That's way to expand on it, Rev. Rev, this week, listen, we got an email, and I didn't get permission to read it back, so I'm not going to read it back verbatim, but I'll just sort of paraphrase. It basically said that the show has gone downhill because I don't let you talk, and I think I know everything, and I don't. So yeah, listen, I will agree. But Rev, I need to bring you in. I can't let the show go down. You need to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, so there you go.
I'm fucking around. No, I mean, yeah. If there's something that I have an opinion on and I could chime in on, I do.
I think your analysis of the Pookie song was quite good. Another comment that came up, actually from the same email, he was saying that that we allude to the fact that Peter Lowell listens to the show. I don't know if Peter Lowell listens to the show. It's a joke. Rev seems to believe it, but I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But this was, the guy was basically saying, you really think that Peter Lowell listens to your show? Get over yourself. I think he said away and pump your hand. I had to look in my Scottish dictionary to figure out what that meant. But
I mean, you met the guy when he was in Philly, and you know.
That's true. That's true. I did. He seemed a very pleasant guy, eager to hear what I had to say, which, take my hat off to him. Nobody wants to hear what I say. I'm a freaking lunatic.
he asked for your email address, and he never got back to you, but he still likes to keep tabs from time to time,
You know my address? You don't know my address. Fun little games. Yeah, I never heard from him, so I'm a little bitter from that. Hit me up, Pedro. BeyondTheWave67@gmail.com. I got ideas. We can do this. We can do this, you and me. So, listen. Peter Lowell doesn't listen to the show. Please. So if you take us seriously, when we say that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you don't like that. Hurts your feelings. Although I did have somebody tell me, somebody who had a source who doesn't work for Celtic anymore, but said this was 6 or 8 months ago, I think. Actually, it was right before I went over to Scotland, who said, are you going to meet with Peter Lowell? I said, what? I'm not going to be with Peter Lowell. He would never take a meeting with me. He said, well, he listens to your show. I'm like, no, he doesn't. And he said that such and such a person, who I'm not going to name, who, again, isn't even with the club, said that he listens to all the Hail Hail Media shows. I don't know whether it's true or not. Quite frankly, I don't care. Maybe I do a little bit. Rev cares a lot.
It inflates my ego if I know that he listens.
How does that go over in the Red Bull Arena terraces?
How does what go over?
The fact that, Pedro's your homeboy.
Didn't even know who the hell he is.
Well, they will when you teach them the Pookie song.
Hey, I'm trying to think. I'm like, that's not too bad of a song. I wish I could steal that somehow and convert it, but it doesn't really work for anybody.
Henri, 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 you handle the ball in the box. God almighty, that is awful. I mean, we started off where that was like, yeah, it's kind of catchy. That's not too bad, Didn't take long for that to just go awful.
So he's wearing number 20. He's got the curly hair. I wonder if there's going to be Timu Puki's Fenian Army.
Oh. Look at you picking up the connection there.
Hey.
Yeah. Don't sell Pookie. Timu Puki. Yeah, I don't think that quite has the same sort of ring or vibe. Now joining us all the way from the land of Oz, Australia, it is one of our compatriots in Hail Hail Media from the Rebel Podcast. It's Prefontaine. You there?
Hail, boys. How are you?
There he is. The Balcony of Freedom.
Absolutely.
And you guys were back, over the past several days. I enjoyed that, the return. And Frank. I always love a bit of Frank. And, so it was quite the release this week, wasn't it?
It was. The last two, we've done 3 shows so far this season, and the last 2 shows that we've had have been contrasting podcasts because obviously the podcast after we lost to Shakhtar Karagandhi wasn't, it's not good to podcast when your football team gets beat by a bunch of farmers.
No, it's not. No. I mean, this has been the most psychotic month for the podcast, and then it almost gives a glimpse into our own mindsets, where it's like you go from such lows to such highs, and it's like, geez, what the fuck is going on?
Well, actually, Frank said that before the day before the game, I said, should we do a show after the home game? And he says, if we lose, I'm not coming. And he wasn't joking either. He was serious. And I went, okay, fair enough. So we our most recent podcast was on a knife edge whether or not we'd actually have the show because we weren't going to talk about it if we got knocked out of the or didn't progress into the Champions League group stage. But luckily we did.
Yeah, no question about it. And it's what's your take on the group that we got left in? I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, I was expecting a lot of folks to look at that and say, right, yeah, we get screwed again. But a lot of people are up for this. A lot of people are saying, bring it. I mean, and my rationale for it is, I made the point a bit earlier where, Neil Lennon seems to step up when the stakes are the highest and when it seems as though, the challenge is the greatest.
My first take out from the actual the draw was, and this is just sort of conversing with family and friends back in Scotland, is they were very disappointed because they'd already been to these places.
Yeah.
And so, which reminded me that sometimes the Champions League draw isn't actually about football, but about where Scottish and Irish people can go for a holiday. And I mean that quite seriously. Like they were like, "Oh, I've already been to Barcelona a couple of times already." But even beyond just the sort of the holiday concept, I kind of wanted to play against teams that we'd not played before. I mean, we've played between Barcelona and AC Milan in the last sort of 5-6 years. That's like 12 games of football. Which is a lot, and the rarity or the rarefied status that when you play in Champions League football, to come against those kind of teams that many times is a lot. So I sort of said to myself before the draw occurred, I was kind of hoping that we'd get Chelsea, Juventus, and Ajax. I kind of thought that would be a good mix of teams, but getting Barcelona and Milan again. It is what it is. It's the Champions League football, and you're always going to get top teams. And it just seems that we keep on getting. I mean, I think Arsenal keep on getting Russian teams. So it's
the curse of Arshavin.
Yeah. So it is what it is,
and it makes for shitty. It makes for shitty jokes on Twitter. The whole like Celtic fan walks into a bar thing.
Yeah, exactly. Mentally, I think I was like climbing that mountain last season, actually beating Barcelona at Parkhead was, I'm still kind of mentally fatigued from the whole experience. That game really had a massive impact on me, and I'm thinking I'd like to not have to play Barcelona for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen within the next within 11 months. So, but I have faith in the team, and I know that we've lost a couple of key players, but this team that we have, I think they prove time and time again that they've got the mental fortitude to rise to set occasions, and those occasions vary because I think that mentally it was a big challenge for the club and for the players on Wednesday or Thursday night against Shakhtar to overcome a 2-goal deficit, and I know that that's a different kind of proposition when then you play Barcelona or Milan or even Ajax. But I think mentally this team is very, very focused, and they have a lot of belief in each other and a belief in their own abilities. And I actually think that playing Barcelona again, I think that if you're a footballer that plays for the Barcelona Football Club, you'd be going, "Fuck, I've got to go back to Celtic again."
Exactly.
That's going to give me the shits.
Exactly, and he has this like, "Fuck's sake, Glasgow again."
Yeah, like I think when he gave those quotes after he'd been there, it was kind of like, yeah, been there, done that, don't want to go back there again.
Yeah, now that we're done with that. It's sort of like me flying in a helicopter. Oh, thank God, I don't have to ever do that again.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Look, and I don't want to, blow my own trumpet in one respect, but I wrote an article during the week for this ridiculous pop culture sport website that I write for.
TheFlack.com.
The Flack.
Go ahead. And, give it a punt. Give it a punt.
Give it a punt. And theflack.com. And I likened, I said, if you're thinking about picking a football team to support during the Champions League group stages, what that football team equates to a sexually transmitted disease.
Paint a picture.
So, I wrote it really, really drunk on New Year's Eve at the start of the year, and I thought, no, I don't think I can ever publish that because it's probably inappropriate. But then I thought, oh fuck it, let's just do this. And I said that Celtic were like genital warts, that you don't get cocky if you think you've got control of it or you've beat it, because it's likely to come back and bite you on the ass. And I think that's the same as Celtic is that team that you just don't. You think, oh yeah, we've got Celtic, that'll be an easy game for us. And I think a lot of teams come to Parkhead and think, this is 3 points in the bag, and that is our secret weapon, is their complacency.
Yeah, no question.
Mentally, it doesn't matter if you live in Barcelona, you play for Barcelona, or if you play for Ajax or you play for AC Milan, you're surrounded by the media and the support and the fans, and you're in that bubble, and I think you just think, people will tell you, no, going to Parkhead is a difficult game, and you'll go, I appreciate what you're saying, but deep down you think, no, that's bullshit. This is a Scottish team playing in a push league, and we are going to absolutely mollocate these guys. and that transcends when they walk out on the pitch, and they are in for a massive shock, because every time any football club that arrives at Paradise and walks out on that pitch, they're confronted with this wall of green and white noise that I think that just shakes them out of their own comfort zone, and then all of a sudden it's a level playing field again, and it's game on. And I just think that that's the attitude that the players and that Neil Lennon and the whole club has towards the next group stage matches. I think that it's game on basically.
I think that's exceptionally well said, and it's something that, to your point, no player can understand exactly what it is. Even if you see the games on television, you see that display on television, you hear people talk about it. Clarence Seedorf, Xavi, Messi, Iniesta, all these players talking about how intimidating it can be and how amazing it is. Until you experience it firsthand, you have absolutely no idea. And that's such a huge advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it just gets back to it's sport. We always sort of forget that, the EPL, I don't know what it's like in the United States, but certainly in Australia, everyone builds up the EPL as being, the best league in the world. And that's only because they've got a very, very, very good marketing department. But is it actually the best league in the world? No, it's not, because, we know that, when the two bottom clubs play each other, it's one of the worst games of football you'll ever watch. But we buy into that shit. And actually, one thing Callum tweeted tonight when we were watching the Dundee United game was that it was a really good game of football. It was end-to-end stuff. It was fast-paced. It was the crowd were up for it. It was a great atmosphere. It was really, really good exhibition of Scottish football. And people write off the Scottish League because they think it's a rubbish league, but Celtic keep on making it into the Champions League group stages, and only the best 32 teams in Europe play in that. And I think that if you're a club that you're about to go and take on Celtic, it would be really, really naive for you to suggest that this is going to be a doddle.
No question about it. And many clubs have made that same mistake and have paid the price. Let me ask you a question, that I've sort of been asking and throwing out there, because in the past 4 days, I've been made to look like a mug. But I want to ask you: has our qualification for the group stages now vindicated Peter Lowell's strategy, I guess, if you want to call it that, over this past transfer window? Going back to, I've been calling for us to do our business early. Going back to early July, we did bring some players in early doors, but there's several hours left in the transfer window, and there's still issues that we haven't resolved just yet. Has Peter Lowell's strategy of sort of waiting till the last second to try and get good deals, has that been vindicated by our advancing into the group stages? And is this a gamble that's worth taking?
I think certainly the gamble that he took by not signing or trying to replace the three guys that we lost has paid off. I think that Celtic could play. This is probably a bit massively disrespectful and mildly undermining to what I just said before about.
Let's have it. Let's have it.
Don't underestimate other leagues. But I think that the Celtic reserves should have beaten Shakhtar Karagandhi. I think they were a very well organised team, but I think they had basically one route to trying to win games. So I don't think we actually needed to replace Hooper or Victor or Calvin to beat the Kazakhstan side. Now, if we want to progress beyond the group stages in the Champions League, then I think that we probably do need to bring in some talent. And I'm not even sure, when does the transfer window close, Graham?
In about 5.5 hours.
Okay, right. That's kind of tight. I think that. Look, I've just come to the realization that we're not going to. I'm surprised that we're buying players for £2, £3, £4 million. I kind of thought that we weren't. I thought those days were behind us. I thought that we were literally going to try and grab guys, essentially from the Israeli Football League, for
$600,000.
800. Yeah, exactly. I just didn't think that we were going to start bringing in guys for £3 or $4 million, because it's not just the. I guess it's not just the actual initial outlay that you pay for, it's also the wages that they're on, right. And that's where the expenses really kick in. So I'm surprised that we paid that much for that Finnish guy that I can't pronounce his name.
Hang on, I got it for you. It's Pookie, Pookie, Pookie.
Very good. That's good. I get a sense that that's been a gag throughout the whole podcast tonight that I may have walked into.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. But it works well. I like multimedia in a podcast. We've walked out 3 or 4 million for this bloke. Is it worth it? Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know if the gamble of what the board has done will pay off. We won't know that until after the end of the group stages, essentially. But I don't think that But to get to the original point, do I agree with what they've done? Yeah, I actually do. I don't actually want the club to go back into debt. I think that Sevco has proved to us that that's a perilous path. And I think that we actually have got decent enough players in our squad right now that actually can. They're not going to win the Champions League, but they're going to do well.
Yeah, and listen, I don't think anybody at this point, any right-minded Celtic fan is going to want us to go down some route where all we're going to do is bring in overhyped £10 million players from the English league or these continental European leagues. I think we do need to have a prudent strategy going forward where we can buy players in a certain price range and be able to polish up a diamond, so to speak, and get them additional visibility, which would have us in a position where we can sell them for a profit and reinvest that profit. But I think that the realistic state that we're in just now, and it's all down to the fact that Neil Lennon figured out a way to get the 3-0 result that we needed the other night. We're never going to be in that position again. I mean, never. We stand to bring in another 20 million. From the group stages this year, and Neil Lennon even referred to the money that we're going to get from that after the game the other night. This is going to keep us going for another couple of years after this. So if we can get a scenario where, and this isn't the type of thing that we're going to have to do every season. Keep in mind, we spent $2 million for Gary Hooper 3 years ago, and we didn't have to replace him, over the course. So if we're going to spend $3 million on Pookie. And he turns into, talisman, and he's going to score 20 to 25 goals this season. He's going to create another 15. Well, then that's fantastic. He's 23 years old. We can keep him for 2 or 3 years. And if somebody wants him bad enough and is going to pay double what we paid for him, fantastic. Then we'll go do it again. So it's all in the sort of modicum, and with the previous caller, Dr. John calling in, talking about, where are we in the sliding scale, in the business model? Are we, where you, and to a certain extent, I thought we were, buying the 600,000-pound players and taking nobodies and turning them into sort of almost world-class players like a Victor Wanyama? Or are we going to go back maybe to something closer to the Martin O'Neill mold? I think it's going to have to be a delicate balance, but and it's going to be needs must. In my opinion, we haven't replaced Hooper, and I think that hurt us in the first leg, especially against Shakhtar, to a certain extent in the second leg as well. And I think that's going to be an ongoing concern with us. We need somebody that can consistently put the ball in the back of the net, playing up top. It seems as though we have about a dozen strikers just now, and not one of them really is a bona fide finisher. That's concerning for me. It's concerning from the standpoint of redundancy. We have a lot of players that are available for us, but aren't going to be productive. I think that's a big reason why you're seeing Tony Watt go away on loan at this moment. I would love to see us bring in maybe one more player that is that poacher. And listen, it doesn't need to be Finn Bogason or whatever. I think that he quite likely is priced out of what he is truly worth. But if they have another iron in the fire that, as Neil Lennon referred to it after the game today, they can bring in and can be that player that we can sort of polish up and can be serviceable in Europe as well, then that's what we're looking to do. But like I said, it's not going to be a situation where we're going to need to worry about finances for quite some time. At this point, we can relax, we can enjoy the run into the SPL season in earnest, get some of these cup ties going, and obviously the Champions League group stages. Now, do you have any plans before we let you go? I don't want to take up your entire evening, but do you have any plans to get back to Celtic Park maybe sometime this fall to see any of these Champions League games?
I kind of started to think about maybe heading across for one of the group stage games. But I know that once I start, I'm thinking about taking some holidays at the end of September, so early October. I might I might nick off to Tokyo just for a couple of weeks. But
Okay.
my rule has been recently is that if I ever go north of the equator, then I just keep on traveling towards Celtic Park.
Or Boston.
Or Boston, exactly.
Right.
So I started to look at flights going, okay, Tokyo to Glasgow, what's that going to cost me? I thought, no, I can't do that. I need to just like give it a rest. Because I think I've been I've been there way too much, too often lately, and it's just getting ridiculous. I could almost like buy some sort of share house in like Party or something because I'm going there that often at the moment. So I'm going to try and resist it and just enjoy the spectacle from a distance. But it would be lovely. It would be lovely to be at Paradise for the Barca or the Milan game, just to take in the whole atmosphere.
I'm going to Barca.
As you know.
I'm going to Barca.
Well, see, I was following Twitter the other day, and I sort of picked up on a bit of a feed about that, but I wasn't sure if that was you guys with a bit of bravado or if that was genuine. So is that true? You're actually going to Barcelona?
Yeah. Well, my wife has now, I sort of ran it past her like, hey, we got anything going on? And I think she had a meeting in Ireland, but turns out that meeting is later, and she says, oh, well, I might go, over with you as well. So now it's like, now we have to sort 2 tickets together. One ticket is challenging enough. So it's just a matter of when exactly we're going to come over and how many of us will be coming over. But I am going to be there, definitely.
Oh, that is fantastic. That is fantastic. Let's give me something to aim for then. Maybe I'll start to consider the notion of going to Barcelona.
Go on, Prey. Go on, Prey. It makes sense. Listen, you at the travel website would be like me playing Football Manager. Finn Bogason, $6 million, done.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm doing it.
I'll take those odds. Absolutely.
Yep. Seems reasonable.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Well, listen, thank you so much for getting in touch. I need to run. Speaking of my wife, she is about to hit me over the head with a Louisville Slugger. So in order to alleviate that, I need to wrap this thing up. But all the best to you, sir, and we'll catch up soon.
Absolutely. It was good to talk to you again, and best of luck to the show for the forthcoming season.
Lovely. To yours as well.
Cheers, man.
Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
That is Prefontaine of the Rebel Podcast, a Hail Media offering. And it's actually one of my favorite podcasts, not just of Hail Media, but of all time. They are absolutely brilliant. They are everything that I wish to be. I could fly higher than a hero. It just seemed like the lyrics had to continue on into there. You're so verbose today, Rev. Lots of grunts and I think you're trying to sort out how you're gonna finagle the Pookie deal into a Henri song.
There's Petke.
Petke. You still haven't won a cup. Very nice. So I wanted to give a shout out to Alistair Jack. He's a little miffed at you, Rev, because you're not following him on Twitter. He's at Carl Compton's Fans on Twitter. So make sure you follow him, Rev. But he went.
Find that then.
Yeah. Go ahead and look him up. He's a good guy. He's a friend of the show. And John Jaffrey's calling in. Nope, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen, John Jaffrey. It's either John Jaffrey or my wife, and let me tell you, my wife wins. So Alistair Jack made it up to Dundee today. Hopefully he had a spectacular day. He's friends with us on Facebook. You can check out our Facebook group at Beyond the Waves Celtic Football Show under the group's function. And, yeah. That's pretty much it, Rev. I gotta go. I gotta go sit in some traffic.
You have fun with that.
Going to Atlantic City. Gonna, spin the wheel.
Stop by Yampi's house.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be sitting in enough traffic. I can stop by Yampy, see what he's up to. That's pretty much it. Happy days, 1-0 result today. Wasn't, the prettiest thing to watch at times, but we controlled the entire game. I think that, we looked solid at the back. For me, it seems like F. Ambrose is back. Fraser Forster really had nothing to do. Van Dijk, looks to be progressing quite nicely. Fingers crossed
he had a better game than he's had.
I agree. I'm confident, that he's going to develop into a player. I'm less nervous about us bringing in a center half as I am bringing in a striker, a bona fide poacher, goal scorer. and we seem to be going after Lee Tomlin like Lenny's standing outside of Peterborough right now with a boombox over his head. That's how bad it's gotten with this Lee Tomlin thing, and I don't know. I just don't see it. But listen, who knows? Maybe we can bring him in, and he can be the player we need. But anyway, I'm out. I'm out of here. So for the Rev and Prefontaine, thanks a lot for calling in from Australia today, and Dr. John from Myrtle Beach, as always, talking sense. Well thought out. My name is Graham Wilson, and taking us out as always is Shane McGowan and the Pogues. Hail, hail, and keep the faith. Bye, Rev.
Bye.
The island, it is silent now, but the ghosts still haunt the waves. And a torch lights up a famished man who fortune could not save. Did you work upon the railroads? Did you ride the streets of crime? Were your dollars from the White House? Were they from the 5 and dime? Did the old songs start to cheer you, and did they still make you cry? Did you count the months and years, or did your teardrops quickly dry? I know that it was not to be on a coffin ship. I came here and I never even got so far that they could change my name. Thousands are sailing across the western ocean to a land of opportunity that some of them will never see. Fortune prevailing across the western ocean, their bellies full, their spirits free. They'll break the chains of poverty and they'll dance. In Manhattan's desert twilight, in the dead of afternoon, we stepped hand in hand on Broadway, like the first man on the moon. And a blackbird broke the silence as you whistled, it's so sweet. And in Brendan Behan's footsteps, I danced up and down the street. And we said goodnight to Broadway, giving it our best regards. Took our hats to Mr. Cohen, dear old Times Square's favorite bird. Then we raised a glass to JFK and a dozen more besides. When I got back to